Slay this man.
What's up guys? Today we have a pretty interesting video. So recently you guys have been asking me to kind of check out other people's videos about Star Wars related things and give my opinion on their specific videos. So today we're going to be tackling Whatculture's opinions on the top 10 simple fixes that would have saved Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Now of course, with that title, you're referencing that The Rise of Skywalker was bad. Or it needed some type of saving. I guess to a certain point I could believe that, and I might agree with you in certain points. So today we're going to see just how well I agree with them or I disagree with them. So if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure to link the videos you want to see me kind of do reacts to, and maybe even just like little discussions on in the comments below. And if you want to see more like this, please remember to like, subscribe, and notifications for more videos. Now with that said guys, let's just begin.
Would have saved Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Number 10. The Emperor has got to go. The Rise of Skywalker is a uniquely frustrating story, not just in the sense that it's a duff conclusion to the sequel trilogy, but because it kind of, sort of breaks Star Wars as a whole? Let me explain. The Emperor is the source of most of the film's most debilitating issues, literally from the first moment. The dead speak is top-tier ham, but once it becomes clear that the character's return occurred off-screen, and flossing in Fortnite no less, the story enters freefall. Kylo Ren tracks the Emperor to the Sith homeworld of Exegol using a Sith Wayfinder. The totally not holocron, even though it is MacGuffin, he retrieves at the start, and dear old Palpatine promptly reveals that his latest scheme has been his endgame all along. He kindly reveals to the audience that he made Snoke, and that's meant literally. There's a tube of Snoke's just lying around just because. And Palpatine then explains how he's been seducing Kylo to the dark side all along, mimicking the voices of Vader and Snoke. Also, he definitely has children now, and Rey's a Palpatine. We literally do not care at this point, clearly. The problem with the Emperor in Episode 9 isn't just that he clearly has his own version of the come to bed eyes, it's that he completely invalidates the entire Skywalker saga. Not only does it not make a single lick of sense, it also invalidates Anakin Skywalker's sacrifice in Return of the Jedi, arguably the most important moment in the entire series. Ultimately, the Emperor's return breaks the inner logic of the Star Wars mythos. It renders decades of material inconsequential and also encourages the Rise of Skywalker's worst defense, backpedaling on the Last Jedi's inspiring message to reduce Star Wars to a tale of inheritance between two families. The galaxy far, far away has never felt smaller.
Okay, so let's tackle that. First off, I think if they were going to bring back Palpatine, I think that they did bring him back the best way that they could. Second, I do somewhat agree with the fact that it does kind of hinder Anakin's story and his redemption a little bit. That's actually one of the biggest points of debate when it comes to this particular movie, is that a lot of people feel as though Anakin was done dirty because his entire story is now kind of pointless because he doesn't actually succeed in taking down Palpatine. The way I like to look at it is that while Rey was the one to actually finish off Palpatine, she was also the one to kind of finish what Anakin started. So Anakin kind of took down who Palpatine was and what he stood for, while Rey kind of just finished off what he started. So if you look at it like that, I think it's a little bit more accepting to kind of forgive the mistakes of this specific movie. But with that said, I guess I could see why some people might actually be offended or angry about it, because in a way it does kind of detract from his story. Unless, of course, you change your perspective on what exactly happened. So here's the thing. What happened, happened. We can't go back and change it. So the best we can do is just change our perspective on the actual story, and maybe you might like it more. So that's what I do. Maybe you want to do the same. With that said, let's continue with this video.
Number 9. Find a different role for General Leia. Carrie Fisher was an incredible presence, and a talent who left us all way too soon. And while it might seem tactless to immediately focus the impact of her loss on Star Wars, it is sadly also apt post-Episode 9. Leia was always meant to play a key role in Episode 9, but more than a few eyebrows were raised when it was announced that Fisher's role in the film would be completed with unused footage from The Force Awakens. The actual process is nowhere near as seamless as was originally suggested, and it means that all the scenes with Leia in The Rise of Skywalker are really uncomfortable to sit through. Nowhere more so than her corpse is left lying around on the Rebel base for ages before it disappears. I know. Audiences tend to decry off-screen deaths on a regular basis, but given the circumstances of Fisher's passing, is it not possible that would have been the better option here? Episode 9 could have opened with a longer passage of time between it and The Last Jedi, during which she would have passed on, and they still would have been able to retain Leia's role as Rey's new master. In her place could have emerged Rose Tico and Cadel Connix as the Resistance's main leaders. That way you actually have a meaningful arc for Kelly Marie Tran's character, who was wasted in the finale by the way, and a nice way of honouring Fisher's legacy, with Connix being portrayed by daughter Billie Lourd.
You really want to do Carrie Fisher's story right, and I understand that. You really also want to do Leia Organa's story right, and I guess from the point of view where I'm looking at is that they had the ability to bring her back, so they did. And they didn't want to do like, you know, a complete CGI remodel of her, which is respectful for the actress. But at the end of the day, would Carrie Fisher want to be killed off screen? Now here's the thing. I didn't know Carrie Fisher personally, but from what I've seen from her and what I know about her, she definitely wouldn't have wanted her character to just kind of die off screen. So she'd want to go out in a way that actually impacted the overall story, and her death is what helped Kylo turn back to the light. So on that level, when it comes to what Whatculture is saying, I understand that, but honestly, I prefer the way JJ did it, and that just might be me, but that's how I feel.
The Knights of Ren and Hux as threats to Kylo Ren's leadership. Nixing the Emperor from The Rise of Skywalker obviously leaves the film with a huge vacuum. Someone needs to fill the role of the antagonist, and if it isn't going to be Ben Solo, then it has to be someone else. Instead of bringing back the Emperor and, you know, breaking Star Wars in two, Abrams and Terrio should have looked inward at the tools they already had at their disposal. The Last Jedi had maintained the rivalry between Domhnall Gleeson's General Hux and Adam Driver's Kylo Ren, while the Knights of Ren were still a looming presence in the distance. Why not have one, or both, plot to overthrow Kylo as the supreme leader of the First Order in a coup of sorts? Perhaps they're frustrated by Ren's reluctance to be as ruthless as he once was, following the seed of doubt planted by Rey and Luke in Episode 8, and they decide he's no longer fit to be leader. Further to that, The Rise of Skywalker makes no effort to explain where the Knights have been in the last two films, and turns Hux into a spy in a way that fundamentally contradicts his character's fanaticism. With the help of another influence, which I'll get to in a second, Hux and the Knights' attempt to oust Kylo from power would push him further towards the light. Cue a big epic confrontation between the Resistance and the First Order, a redeemed Ben getting to interact with Rey for much longer, and a conclusion that actually draws upon the previous two films instead of one that feels derivative and nonsensical.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I could agree with that. Do more with the Knights of Ren. I guess if you can say anything that, you know, if Phasma was wasted in the last two films, at least she wasn't in this one, but then they wasted the Knights of Ren. So, I mean, I guess that's that. And definitely Hux was kind of wasted too. I understand, like, in the last film, he kind of just became, like, this, like, comedic relief character. So it's probably for the best that they did something with him. And it was cool to see that he at least became, like, a spy, but it would have been cool also to maybe actually have him join the crew of the Resistance even. I mean, I don't know exactly how far they'd go with that, but it would have been interesting to see, like, maybe if Finn and Hux were, like, forced to be friends, especially considering how much they hate each other. So that would just be interesting to see, but I guess I agree with them on this, but I do think that there are worse issues in this movie, but that's just how I feel.
Skywalker haunts Ben as a Force ghost. One of the all-time great quotes from The Last Jedi comes when Luke, or at least an apparition of Luke, confronts Kylo Ren on Crate. "Strike me down in anger and I'll always be with you, just like your father." This wasn't meant to be superfluous dialogue, it was an omen. The Rise of Skywalker expands upon this somewhat when Ben converses with the memory of Han Solo within the wreckage of the second Death Star, but it's only one scene. Even outside of this hypothetical Episode 9 I've just concocted, would it not have made sense to keep that theme going in The Rise of Skywalker? All Luke does is appear on Act 2, where Rey experiences his entire arc in the space of minutes, and then to scream internally as she buries his father and sister's lightsaber on a planet they all hated. Having Luke stay with Ben as his internal conflict escalates would have really helped sell the momentum of his eventual redemption, whilst also providing a clever inversion of the typical Force Ghost dynamic audiences have grown accustomed to over the previous entries.
Okay, so if there's anything we can complain about this new trilogy, it's the fact that the lack of Force ghosts. I was really hoping to see Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end of this film, and I thought we were going to see it. We heard their voices, but that's not the same as seeing them. So when it comes to seeing more Luke as a Force ghost, I think for what he was supposed to stand for in this movie, he did a good job. The whole point of like Luke's entire him talking to Rey in the first place on Oct 2 was to kind of just be like, I'm sorry to the fans, and that's why JJ put that part into the film. I mean, it was from a story point, it was to kind of have Rey realize she's being an idiot and get back into the fight. But it was also supposed to be a little nod to the fans and being like, hey, sorry for what happened to Luke in The Last Jedi. This is where we're going to fix it. Now, regardless of how you felt about, Luke's portrayal in The Last Jedi, that was the reason for why he acted the way he did, especially when she threw the lightsaber and he caught it. So that was interesting, but I guess I kind of agree with them. I'd like to see more of Luke, I guess, haunting Kylo. That would be pretty interesting to see, but maybe it would take away from the whole dynamic of what Kylo was supposed to represent in the end of The Last Jedi, though, because he was supposed to be the new Supreme Leader. He's supposed to be the new big bad. And we don't particularly fear him like you would fear Vader or the Emperor or even Snoke. So that was one big issue with Kylo, and the whole point of that was that maybe there should have actually been someone we did fear. And technically, Palpatine could fill that role, but he wasn't really doing anything. He was just kind of sitting back, like letting Kylo do all the work. So there was definitely like the big, scary villain we were missing in this film, as far as, something for the characters to face off with. And I think that was what Kylo was supposed to be, of course, but it just doesn't come off that way. And maybe that's just me again, but that's how I feel. So I guess I kind of agree with them on this one, but not like 100%. So, yeah.
6. How did Luke's sacrifice inspire the galaxy? Democratizing the Force was a big thing in The Last Jedi, and it's something that's sadly absent in The Rise of Skywalker. Episode 8's ending showed Luke's sacrifice on Crate inspiring new generations of Force users across the galaxy, with an anonymous boy on Canto Bight summoning his broom using that famous mystical aura. The intent here is to show that while the galaxy didn't heed the Resistance's cry for help in The Last Jedi, a new generation had been inspired by Luke's story and were ready and waiting to one day rise up and finish what he started. No effort was made to even vaguely explore that theme in The Rise of Skywalker, with the Resistance only gaining new allies at the end because I guess more people will listen to Lando than the soldiers stranded on Crate. Episode 9 tries to conjure a moment as hopeful as the one seen during Episode 8's conclusion, but it holds no thematic weight. Everyone assembles because it's do or die at this stage, and while there is a general sense of desperation to the proceedings, it all feels a little too easy. Number 5.
Okay, yeah, so the ending of The Rise of Skywalker, while I do like it, I have to admit, it is a little cartoony how they all just kind of show up out of nowhere and just start fighting with them. I love it. I love to see the entire galaxy come together to take down, the final order, to take down Palpatine. That's just awesome to see. And I think it was really cool. I do think, though, it could have been done a little bit better, just a teeny bit better. So I agree with them on that one.
5. Rey builds her new lightsaber from the start. The Skywalker lightsaber is a big deal in the sequel trilogy. It is depicted in The Force Awakens as a powerful reminder of the Jedi's nobility, and of Luke Skywalker's heroics especially. At the same time, Kylo Ren desires the weapon as his birthright, a weapon that belongs to him that was once wielded by Darth Vader, his grandfather. The Last Jedi also does something really interesting with the weapon. Kylo still covets it, but director Rian Johnson uses Anakin's saber as a narrative device to explore the limiting and occasionally toxic effects of nostalgia. Luke no longer has any reverence for the weapon, and uses it to taunt Kylo during their duel on Crate. It's dead clever, and if the point was for our heroes to move past material possessions, then it was ultimately lost on Abrams' film, which saw Rey reforge the weapon, only to build her own in the last 5 seconds of the film. We know Abrams is a sucker for retreading the original trilogy at this point, so why not give Rey her new golden lightsaber at the beginning of the film? As it did in Episode 6, it would illustrate how our main protagonist has finally become their own Jedi, one not beholden to any one legacy.
Okay, yeah. I have to admit, I agree with this. I think it would have been cool to actually see her use her own lightsaber to signify that she is her own person. I do like the fact that she did reforge it. I was kind of hoping at the end of The Last Jedi, once her lightsaber got destroyed, that she would actually, instead of just kind of reforging it and making it look the same, except for with like some tape. You know what I mean? Instead of doing that, I kind of wish that she would have actually made like a double-bladed blue lightsaber. So while the hilt would be retired, that blue lightsaber that Luke had and Anakin had before her, they could actually, be put into a new lightsaber to signify that, she is paying homage to who came before her, but also she is her own person. And that could be a cool thing to kind of represent. So she's using the crystal from the past, but she made her own hilt to show that she has become her own person as well. So I think that would have been a cool thing they should have done. I like the new golden lightsaber, or orange lightsaber? No, maybe it is like more gold. I like this more yellowish orange lightsaber. It's probably more yellow. Anyways, I'm spending too much time on the lightsaber color. I like the new lightsaber, but it would have been cool to see her actually wield it more instead of just in the last 5 seconds of the film. So, yeah, I agree with them here.
Number 4, make Finn Poe an actual thing. Whether you call them Storm Pilot or Finn Poe, it's hard to think of a ship in recent years that has exploded into the public consciousness with as much love and energy as the one revolving around Finn and Poe Dameron. Oscar Isaac and John Boyega possess palpable chemistry on screen, and while both actors were evidently eager to explore that angle together, Isaac in particular, it never came to fruition. True LGBT representation is almost impossible to come across in mainstream Hollywood. The Rise of Skywalker includes Star Wars' first gay kiss, but more time is devoted to the giant space slug getting a hug. Never mind the fact that 2 characters who do smooch barely have an on-screen presence. Episode 9 also goes to great lengths to hint at heterosexual relationships for both Finn.
Okay, so here's the thing about this. I'm not against this, but I'm okay with it not being a thing. I'm not like a homophobe or anything like that, you know what I mean? I believe that if you love who you love and you're not hurting anyone because of it, then do whatever you like. I actually prefer them to not be together, especially with that new girl they introduced to kind of be like Poe's love interest. She seemed really interesting. And I wish I kind of known more about her. I'm betting we're probably going to see some more stuff in the future, especially like on Disney Plus with her and Poe maybe. So I'd like to see that kind of relationship explored a little bit more. I'm not against it, like I said, but I don't really see it happening in my head. Now, when they talked about the kiss at the end with the 2 ladies, once again, I don't really care about it. I thought it was treated right. The reason for that is because it shouldn't have been... he said they should have spent more time together and shown. It's like, no. They don't have to be shown together. The more you try to push the whole idea of 2 women kissing in Star Wars, you think that it's supposed to be like, oh, this is a big moment. You need to do this. But the more you just kind of shove it in people's faces, the more you're showing just how, like, against it you really are. And the reason for that is because it doesn't matter if you are a man and you love a man, or you're a woman and you love a woman, or you're a man and you love a woman. In the end of the day, when it comes down to it, it shouldn't matter. I think that they did a great job with what they did in this film because they showed the kiss as if it was anyone else kissing. You know, they were cutting to a bunch of people celebrating, they showed the 2 women kissing and they kissed, and then that was that, and they cut right to the next scene. They didn't make a big deal out of it. They respected the fact that these aren't just 2 lesbians, these are actually 2 people in love. And that's what we need to be presenting more. So I am 100% for the way that they showed off this lesbian couple. But I will say that while I agree with the way that Disney did that, I don't really agree with Finn and Poe being together. I'm not against it, but if they actually pursued it in this film, I would have been like, okay, whatever. But I think that maybe they shouldn't do that, and I'm glad that they didn't.
Number 3, have Ben see the light much earlier. The problem with Ben Solo's redemption in The Rise of Skywalker is that it just arrives way too late to make a profound impact. Redeemed Ben shows up on Exegol and has that brilliant moment where Anakin's lightsaber gets force beamed into his hand by Rey, and there's even a kiss between them too. But then he dies and fades away, evidently terrified at the thought of having to answer for his years.
Okay, so I already know what they're going to kind of go over with this. I think that I agree, and I also think that I kind of disagree too. So the reason why I'd love to see kind of Kylo and Rey teamed up doing more stuff together, because some of the coolest parts out of this entire trilogy are from The Last Jedi, and that's when the throne room fight happens. When they are teamed up and they're, fighting, it's cool. Like, for example, also in the end of The Rise of Skywalker, when Kylo and Rey get their blue lightsabers and they're standing there ready to fight, I really wanted to see a lightsaber fight between them and Palpatine. I thought that would have been a really cool representation of what was going to happen, even though Palpatine couldn't fight yet. But I definitely would have liked to see that happen. Just because I like to see them work together. It's cool when Jedi can work together, especially when we have a Jedi and a Darksider actually, teamed up. It's cool to see that. So I wanted to see it. I think that if we would have went this route and we would have had him become a Jedi or see the lights sooner than he did, then he would have actually been able to team up with her. So I'm going to agree with them on this one.
Number 2, get rid of all the fan service. The Rise of Skywalker well and truly goes off the deep end with this. The Emperor's back, and he has a super secret fleet that has mini Death Star cannons attached to their underbellies. Rise of Palpatine. Look, here's a flashback to Luke training Leia. We're back on Tatooine again, I don't know why, but here's a new lightsaber that appears for 2 seconds for story. Oh.
Okay, I know where he's going with this. Okay, here's the thing about Star Wars, and this is just how it is. You can write your own unique story, but there are some things you have to do when it comes to a Star Wars movie. You have to have that fan service. That's just the way it is. I will admit, The Rise of Skywalker might have gone a little overboard. Well, probably a lot overboard, but I think that I'd rather have fan service than no fan service. You know what I mean? If I had to choose, I'd prefer fan service. And that's probably why I actually like Rise of Skywalker more than The Last Jedi. For while Last Jedi is the most visually stunning film out of the entire franchise, from a story aspect, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. And part of Star Wars is having that fan service. It's about the themes and it's like poetry. It rhymes. That's what George Lucas said. And that was kind of like his main driving force for all the films, is he wanted to tell a story that felt right. It felt like Star Wars, and he managed to do that. So with this new sequel trilogy, Episode 7 kind of felt like it had the magic to it. Episode 8 felt like it killed the magic, and it told you, hey, you don't want the magic, trust me. And then The Rise of Skywalker came back like, we're just kidding. We were just messing with you. We want the magic. So it does kind of feel that way. And, man, honestly, the biggest problem with this entire film is that not just this film, but the entire trilogy of the sequel trilogy, is that they should have just had a story planned out. I cannot believe they didn't do one. It was dumb. It was stupid the way they did it. Regardless of if you liked The Force Awakens or you hated it, or you liked any of the movies in this trilogy or hated it, there was a much smarter way to go about these films.
Number 1, keep Rey just Rey. There's an awful lot that's wrong with The Rise of Skywalker, but undoubtedly its most depressing element pertains to Rey's lineage. Fans had speculated relentlessly after The Force Awakens regarding Rey's parents, who they might be and why they left her on Jakku, with the Kenobi, Skywalkers, Solos, and yes, even Palpatines being optioned as potential families. It seemed as though that's where the series was going to go, but then The Last Jedi came along and swept the rug from right underneath everyone's feet, revealing that Rey was just Rey. Her parents were scrappers who sold her for money. There was no happy family, no grand lineage to unearth. She was a nobody, and in a franchise ruled and governed by family ties, that was truly refreshing. It didn't matter where Rey came from. She was a hero same as any Skywalker or Kenobi, and she was her own person too. The Rise of Skywalker, tragically, opted for something completely different. The film discloses that she actually has Palpatine's power. It's not her own, it's the Emperor's, and yes, it's about as bad as it sounds. Sure, there's a nice enough message to extrapolate here about how you're able to choose your own family, but it ends on such a dull note. Rey declares herself a Skywalker, and it doesn't feel triumphant so much as it does painful. Rey's legacy should just be that she was Rey. Just Rey. She doesn't need to take the Skywalker name to show that she's found a new family. We know that already. Just let her be Rey. Surnames need not apply.
Okay, so now that one's a pretty deep one. This is my opinion on this whole situation. I see it as this. The Force Awakens set up the idea that Rey is related to somebody. The Last Jedi said, nope, she's just Rey. So The Rise of Skywalker had to come back and say, well, actually, she is just Rey, but she technically isn't just Rey. So this franchise needed a Kevin Feige, per se, and they had a Kathleen Kennedy, and she knows how to make money, and she knows, like, the business end of stuff. She's not like a creative head, like someone like Kevin Feige, like I mentioned. So that is probably the biggest issue out of this entire video, and that kind of sums it up. I mean, personally, I'm okay with her being Rey Skywalker. in the entire movie, people were complaining about how, like, you know, the whole point of the film was kind of being who you want to be regardless of who you're related to. But then in the end, she becomes a Skywalker anyways. And my whole point against that would be, yes, she became a Skywalker, but she chose to be a Skywalker. And that's the whole point of that very end scene. Is a little bit cringy when she says Rey Skywalker? Maybe a little bit. But the whole idea is that, you know, she chose to be a Skywalker. She didn't want to be a Palpatine. She didn't want to not have a last name. She wanted to be a Skywalker, so she became a Skywalker. And I think that is a powerful message to send. And I think that's a point that people are missing in this specific movie. So that's just how I feel, guys. So that is the end of this video, guys. Like I said in the beginning of this video, if you guys would like to see me kind of like react and do like reviews on other people's videos, let me know in the comments below. Now, I'm not like Anomaly Incorporated. I'm not about to just destroy these people for their opinions. You know, although I love that guy. He does go a little overboard sometimes, but that's, you know, part of his charm, so that's why I love him. I will do a more rational, you know, just like opinion-based video like this. So if you guys like this type of video, like I said, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications for more videos. And with that said, guys, I guess we're done. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.